It has saved my ankles, it saved my knees 4 or 5 times. So when we hit the ground, there's no difference from hitting natural grass and hitting turf with a cushion. No difference at all, really. And all I've done is coached on it. I've coached about 50 games on it. Down at the beach, in Myrtle Beach, when I was at Georgetown playing them. Up here when I was at Union County playing against Spartanburg, playing against York. Now here in Greenville when we go down to Hannah and all that. About the worst thing I can say about that turf is when you get pellets in your shoes and you got to dig them out all night long. Okay? You know, we went up to Chesney when I was at Woodruff, play up there. They had the latest and greatest of the turf. They had the new pellets. And the day we went up there, we were a little weary about if we were going to be able to play or not on time. They said, "Oh no, coach, you don't have to worry about this. It cools the field rather than it heats it up." So that's a great advantage of this turf now. Okay? It's not the turf that I had in Paul Lawrence Dunbar in 2008, 2009 that had the black pellets and it was hot. It was hot on a 70-degree day. So I hope you will consider this for our students and put a smile on their face and make them feel like those kids at Hannah and Westside and Spartanburg did. Thank you all so much for what you do. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Harder.
Thank you. David Horner. I'm a parent of 2 men athletes, and I'm here to just thank you all for considering this. We've come up here, Jailman Booster Club, several times and asked for attention to some issues. You guys have acted just about every single time, and we're much appreciative of that. I did hear about, one thing that stood out to me tonight was gun violence, and there's no one solution to gun violence. I think every school deals with it, but I can tell you that it's parents, obviously, it's teachers, it's mentors, and it's coaches. And athletics plays a huge role to, these kids' sanity, and it's just such a huge outlet. And when my kid can't play soccer for 4 days because the fields have been trashed by a week of rain, it really coops them up. And I think y'all's decision, if it's a yes vote, is a commitment to keeping these fields open during tough times. It's a commitment to the percentage increases this county is seeing in population, where these enrollments are going. You're doing more with less so far as space is concerned. Jailman lost 3 acres of green space this year to an elementary school. We've got 2,000 kids, over 1,000 athletes, 9 to 10 teams playing on Slayton Field, and I just think it's a tremendous decision, and applaud your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Laura Allen.
My name is Laura Allen. I wanted to speak, like many others tonight, in regard to the artificial turf. So I came to speak in opposition of it primarily on 2 fronts. Number one, that I find it incredibly fiscally irresponsible, but number 2, also that I feel, regardless of the economics, it shouldn't be considered because of the safety concerns surrounding it. And the safety concerns, again, being on 2 fronts, also that the chemicals used in artificial turf are carcinogenic. And number 2, that, as other students have pointed out, artificial turf makes players more prone to injuries. We've had some people speak anecdotally on this, but the facts are what they are. Studies have been done on this in terms of injuries, the same with studies on the chemicals that go into artificial turf, and the facts just are what they are, as other people have pointed out. I actually looked at a study that specifically looked at high school athletes, and I know there was some conversation about the difference between high school students using them versus like professional players, for example. There was a 2019 study that analyzed data collected by 26 different high school athletic trainers that looked at data for the 2017-2018 school year. And they found that the athletes were 58% more likely to sustain injury on athletic turf, and that is specific to high school students. Also, I know I was looking at the material that you all are planning to use, and I will say that looking at the makeup of the artificial turf that you all are considering implementing, it is safer than some. It doesn't contain some of the carcinogenic elements like recycled tires. But one of the key elements is polyurethane, which can cause respiratory disease, skin irritation, and asthma. It also, which was mentioned in the description of the turf that you all plan to lay out, it emits what are called volatile organic compounds, VOCs, which can increase the risk of cancer over time. And again, these are things that have been studied and shown. So it's not anecdotal evidence, it's just what studies have actually shown that these things are carcinogenic. And the worst part about the artificial turf is that not only are students exposed to that and breathing in the carcinogens as they're playing and having their skin directly on the carcinogenic elements, but as the turf breaks down, those elements also enter soil and waterways, so effectively poisoning the entire environment, subsequently getting in our water and things like that. Also to speak to the financial aspect of this, I know someone mentioned earlier that you're not raising taxes to do this, but the fact of the matter is you are using tax money. And so you do have to answer for that to people that pay taxes in this county. You know, this is money out of all of our pockets that is going to do this. And so I think we deserve to, you know, like we were doing tonight, have a say in all this. You also will never convince me that $24 million is an insignificant amount of money, regardless of what percentage of the budget it is.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Megan Ross.
Hi, my name is Megan Brock. I'm here to talk about the Bridgeway Stadium wanting to use Malden High School, Malden Elementary School, and Malden Middle School's parking lots in perpetuity as they plan to build their new Bridgeway Stadium. So the Malden City Council approved behind closed doors, behind executive sessions to build this. They're going to move over to the stadium project, but there's a big problem. If you've ever been to that area, there's no parking. It's already completely overdeveloped, so there's nowhere for cars to park. Potentially, I don't know, probably like 5,000 to 6,000, maybe even more cars when they have 15,000 people. So I asked Malden City, one of the parts of the lease was that in order for the project to go forward, they had to put forth a parking plan. So I asked Malden for the parking plan, which was made available right before Christmas. And on that parking plan, it lists Malden High School, 1,000 spaces confirmed. Malden Middle School, confirmed. Malden Elementary School, 145 spaces, confirmed. The document they sent me says the confirmed column in the table indicates a property that the project team has already coordinated with and secured the use of the property. So my first question is, has the Greenville County School Board already annexed the parking lots of 3 different schools, including Malden High School, which I'm told has 26 varsity sports and a flurry of after-school activities? Have you already confirmed that Bridgeway Stadium has an agreement to use the parking lot in perpetuity for 150 nights a year? I don't know if that's been confirmed or not. I sent you all the documents about a few hours ago, so perhaps you could respond in an email if that is correct. And if it's not correct, I will take that up with the Malden City Council. Secondly, I just want to say why this is such a terrible idea. I don't know if you're aware, but I believe Greenville County is one of the top counties for sex trafficking in the state of South Carolina. I don't know if you know, but before sporting events, people like to tailgate. So the idea of potentially bringing 3,000 to 4,000 strangers onto a high school property, probably in the hours of between, I don't know, 5 to, I would imagine, 10 o'clock at night on a high school campus is insane. Not only does that pose major liabilities, obviously, for the school district if something bad were to happen on the school property at that time, but how about to the students? I have a daughter who's slated to go to Malden High School. I can imagine her going to her after-school program and having to worry that there's potentially 3,000 or 4,000 drunk strangers sharing her parking lot, not to imagine the logistical nightmare this is going to create for students and families. I don't know if there has been an offer. I will say that there is absolutely no price you can put on student safety, and students should not have to coordinate with the activities of a developer. That is public property for the kids. So I just wanted to bring this issue up because I think it's extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you. Our fourth matter of business is 4.01, superintendent's report. Dr. Waker, I know you have to speak tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Before I deliver the formal superintendent's report, I do want to recognize the employments that were made in improving the personnel. I believe most, if not all, of these folks are here tonight to be introduced. First, I'm not seeing Justin Ludwig. Justin, stand up. Well, they already recognize Mr. Ludwig, who is currently the principal of Greer High School. He's done an outstanding job there, leading Greer High for 9 years. And Mr. Ludwig, effective this summer, will be the newly appointed principal of Wade Hampton High School. Congratulations, Mr. Ludwig. Look forward to having you. Larger school, new set of challenges. I know he looks forward to that opportunity and wish him well. I know that he will be very successful. Congratulations. We have 3 appointments. So first, Hunter McClure. Dr. McClure is in the back. Dr. McClure is currently assistant principal at Cherrydale Elementary School. Outstanding job there. He previously served as an assistant principal in Dickinson County and held various roles in schools within our district. We look forward to him assuming the role of leadership at Maria Elementary School. Do you have anyone with you tonight?
I do. I have my wife with me, Kristen.
Welcome to you. And Dr. Hunter, Dr. McClure, congratulations on your appointment. We look forward to you serving in that new leadership role. At this time, I'd like to introduce the new principal, Mitchell Road. Working in enhancing student achievement, very successful. Did an excellent job in her interviews, an excellent job in her current assignment. We look forward to the leadership that she will provide at Mitchell Road Elementary School. You have, I believe you have some guests with you tonight as well.
My whole family is here, and on this way.
Now, I'd like to introduce a newcomer to the district, newly appointed principal for Armstrong Elementary School, Clint Harris Solomon, who is currently serving as a principal in Savannah, Chattanooga County Schools, and served various roles in that district, serving as instructional coach at the district and school level. Also have family here in the Greenville area, which may also be prompting your interest in Greenville County Schools. But congratulations on your appointment at Armstrong Elementary. We look very forward to having you in Greenville County Schools. Do you have any guests with you tonight?
I do, the motivation.
So as for the more formal part of supervision, as several people have mentioned, Terrell recognized the board. January is School Board Appreciation Month. And usually in recognition of that, I like to talk just a little bit about school boards. Some of you up here have heard this before, maybe some of you out there have not. You are, as spectators tonight, looking at a comment on the age of the persons present, but you're looking at one of the oldest forms of local government in America. The origins of school boards go back to 1647. Before there was ever any kind of state legislature, before there was ever a Congress, before there was a country, the Massachusetts Bay Colony established a school committee to provide education in that one of the, if not the first, communities in this country. Now, obviously, school boards have evolved over the years. What you now look more familiar in its composition probably began 1860s, 1870s in this country. Then in the late 1800s, around 1890, the 1890s and the early 1900s, schools began to be a little more organized. By more organized, most communities, whether they were rural or cities, developed school systems. Back then, well, that would have been the case in Greenville County. A school district was likely a school with a room and a teacher and a board of trustees. In fact, at one time in Greenville County, prior to the consolidation in 1952, I believe there were around 90 school districts in Greenville County. So you can see how that has changed and evolved over the years. Consolidation is generally occurring for almost the sole purpose of providing greater opportunities for students. One of the greatest advantages to this consolidated school district are the unique opportunities that students are afforded. Fine Arts Center, River Mountain Science Center, where students talk about the program they're in their school to become teachers. But all of those opportunities require governance that is visionary, that is focused on students, that is looking to the future. We're most fortunate to have a board that exemplifies those qualities. I think there's also an important distinction about a school board, and that is the title that they carry, trustee. Tremendous trust has been placed in these individuals by the people in this community to prepare for the future health for this community. Its economic vitality, its opportunities. That is a great responsibility and one which our 12 trustees take very seriously. There, to my knowledge, is no other elected governing body in our country that carries the title of trustee. I think that is a great reflection, tremendous trust placed in them to do what they do on behalf of our students and this community. We very much appreciate the opportunity to work in an excellent school. On behalf of our 12,000 employees, 78,000 students, I want to express my appreciation to each of you for your service, commitment, and dedication. We always also like to provide some small recognition, token of appreciation to you. I believe several members of the staff will distribute those at this time. So again, thank you very much for your work, your effort, your dedication, commitment, and your service. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much, Dr. Royster. We certainly appreciate those kind words. And I speak for all of us when I say that we are honored to serve the students and citizens of Greenville County. Thank you for this appreciation. At this time, we'll move to our action items, and we have 3 action items tonight. Our first action is review review of board policy KCA, public participation in board meetings. We have a recommended motion from the committee of the whole to approve the revisions to board policy KCA as presented. This does not require a second. Any discussion? Ms. Leventis Wells?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Stiles. I would just like to make mention that maybe in 3 or 4 months, we just get an update and maybe see how this is playing out, this new time change, and make sure that it's conducive to everyone. And if there are any challenges that maybe we discuss, but I will vote in favor of it tonight. But I just wanted to say, and I know we talked about it when we were discussing this particular policy, and I'm hoping that we will really check on it, okay, and evaluate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leventis Wells. Ms. McCullough?
I'm glad to see that we increased the time to 1:15. Did we go over tonight?
We did not go over tonight.
We did not.
No.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our second action item is 5.02, transforming game fields with artificial turf. We have a recommended motion from the committee of the whole to approve the transfer of $24,060,010 of unassigned fund balance to building fund to offset the cost for the conversion of grass stadium fields to artificial turf. This motion does not require a second. Any discussion? Ms. Leventis Wells.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. I know there have been some of us that have received many calls in reference to this change. First of all, just today on the news, North Carolina, University of North Carolina, is converting Kennan Stadium to natural grass, and instead of the turf, getting rid of the turf, and that was under Bill Belichick's school announcement. Also, I find it interesting when I do get these texts, and I called this young man back to make sure it was okay that I give his name, because I want you to make sure that I'm not making anything up. This young fellow's name is Colin Byrne, and he said, Ms. Leventis Wells, I want to share some insights you could use when speaking to the school board about switching to artificial turf. As a former rugby player, high school, and that was at Greenville High, and college level, I've spent years playing on both grass and turf. I've seen the difference firsthand. Turf fields are linked to significant higher injury rates. Studies back this up. Players are 28% more likely to suffer non-contact lower body injuries on turf, and ACL injuries happen 67% more often compared to natural. Beyond the stats, I remember how much harder turf felt after long practices and games. It doesn't have the natural give that grass does, and it gets dangerously hot in warmer weather. For young athletes, especially at this level, safety should always come first. I would choose dirt, sand, and grass over turf any day of the week. And that was from, like I said, he is in his 20s, and his name is Colin Burns. Also wanted to go over a few things, and this deals with injuries related to artificial turf. And I'm going to cover some of it, but not all of it. Today is referred to as third generation turf. The turf itself, which is made of pile fibers that look like grass. Silica and sand and or tiny rubber pellets are used to fill in the space between the fibers. The infill, the amount of the infill, can vary between fields. Artificial turf has become popular choice for sports fields across the country, but is increasingly controversial. There are more than 11,000 artificial turfs in the U.S. Popular for schools and community fields, it has become less popular for professional sport fields because of injuries. The materials used in artificial turf fields often contain lead and other chemicals that are harmful to the human health. Focus on this article is knee and ankle injuries, concussions, heater-related illnesses and injuries, abrasions, all which may occur more frequently on artificial turf than grass. Knee injuries in college players over the course of 10 years and published in 2019. Look at the rates of 5 different knee injuries on grass versus artificial. Playing at lower level experience ACL tears 1.6 times more often on turf than on grass. There were 142 ACL tears on turfs in Division 2 and 3, 111 on natural grass, despite the athletic spending time on grass, and even greater for PCL tears, 3.3 tears per 10,000 competition exposures on turf compared to 1.1 per 10,000 on grass. I could keep going through all of this, and I don't mind turning this over to you, Dr. Royster, because these studies go from where it started years ago, and over the years, they discuss the injuries, they discover the different types of astroturf, artificial turf, etc. I could go over this other where this is more extensive and deals with 2022, and the conclusion history repeats itself, where because we don't know, this is a new, I don't know how new this artificial turf is that we're talking about that deals with the pellets opposed to the tire, rubbers, etc. But if it's new, what do we really know about it? And because of the element of surprise, not knowing, because it hasn't been out as long as all of these others, and now over the years, we're hearing more and more about cancer situations that have come up due to AstroTurf and women's soccer. We've had more issues with skin burns from the turf that caused chemical injuries, that chemicals got in the skin, which provided all of these different illnesses, which came back to cancerous situations. And so I would like to make a motion to table this. I would like to table it because last week I was going to travel to these high schools, the schools that have it in place, because I actually want to talk to the athletic director. I want to talk to the people that are working on these fields, and I want to talk to athletes. I don't want a set group that love it talking to me. I want the pros and cons and the full understanding of these artificial turfs. And so because of the weather last week, I couldn't make those drives to those schools because some of them were closed. And I really would prefer that we go through the district and maybe take board members so we can all see what we're talking about, what we're dealing with before we make a decision Because you've got people taking it up and you talk about the environment and it talks about all the waste underneath and how it's exposed the soil and when they don't want this turf anymore. And so I just want to know the pros and cons before I vote on anything tonight. So I'm going to make that motion to table this, to table the, let me put my glasses on here, 5.02, transforming game fields with AstroTurf.
This is Leviticus Wells has made a motion to table this agenda item. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Cochran. All in favor, say aye.
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 All of, let's do a roll call on this, please. That way we can make sure we have an accurate count.
Ms. Brett?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
No.
Mr. Cochran?
Yes.
Ms. Dillard?
Yes.
Ms. Goodwin Caldwell?
No.
Ms. Leviticus Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Ms. Morrison Thayer?
No.
Ms. Mosley?
No.
Dr. Presley?
No.
Mr. Sailors?
No.
Dr. Stiles?
No.
5, 7, 8.
The motion fails.
So may I continue?
You may continue.
So with that being said, I really thought it would be an 8-4, so thank you for that extra person that went our way. When you look at $24+ million, and we're going to be voting on this tonight to implement when we haven't even investigated it, how do you do that? I don't really fully understand that mindset. But with that being said, it just amazes me that all of a sudden this was brought to us a couple of weeks ago, even though it had been thrown out, like Mr. Nance said, months or 6 months ago. What is the rush on this? What is the rush? Why are we not looking into everything? I'm just going to tell you, we approved this tonight. I'm not voting for it. I will not vote for any millage increase. I'm already being contacted. I know this comes out of a different pot, but like somebody said tonight, this was taxpayers' money sometime down the road. And we're just, because of a group, we've got special ed, we've got things that need to be done in our schools, safety. I mean, we've got so many different pots in there. And we're going to just, after 2 weeks ago, approve over $24 million. And then, Dr. Royster, tell me about, we're going to keep the additional practice fields and put, what was the 4.5 million and then 160,000 a year to keep those in place? Are those practice fields or what is that? I think we discussed that at the committee of the whole. Could you explain that to me?
I can clarify several things and explain that as well.
Okay, please do.
So I think first, clarification, I believe the board asked us about a year ago to look at this. Not something real new. We completed that work, brought it to you all, committee of the whole, as would normally be our practice. We provided to you all the research that we could find on it. There is research on both sides. Mr. Nance can summarize that again for us tonight. We would like for him to do so. What you find is a lot of the research is not necessarily objective. There's research that's supported by people who provide natural turf and people who provide artificial turf. About part of the presentation we did 2 weeks ago, about half the fields, high schools in the state of South Carolina are artificial turf. They have been in, some of them, I guess, more than 10 years. Our folks have had conversations, people all over the state have artificial turf fields. We also have internally some expertise in that. Colonel Carlin, I believe, you led the construction of 3 artificial turf fields in Richland, Lexington 5, prior to coming to Graham County School.
That's correct. We installed all artificial turf on all our game fields back in 2012, and they just completed the replacement of those artificial turf surfaces with new artificial turf surfaces.
Additionally, the 2 other individuals that are really most directly responsible for the maintenance of athletic fields and facilities, Shane Wyndham, who's Director of Maintenance Operations, over all of the maintenance functions of the district. His professional training is in turf. He has a degree in that. He has extensive experience with natural turf, some limited experience with artificial turf. Tom Vaughn, who is the Director of Athletic Field Maintenance in the district, comes to us after, I believe, close to 20 years being the head groundskeeper for the Panthers, where he had responsibility for maintaining some practice fields that were artificial turf, and prior to his leaving the Panthers, they converted their playing field to artificial turf. So we have people that have experience with dealing with artificial turf, knowledgeable in its use, its application, its installation, and its maintenance. The bottom line to the research that was out there, I don't know which one you read, there is no clear-cut injury difference. You heard some of that said anecdotally tonight. It's in your board packet. Concussions less likely to occur. Some other knee, ankle, leg injuries more likely to occur. There is a greater rate of occurrence of injury at the NFL level, and I believe that was explained by Coach Nance as he described the research there, having to do with the speed, the size, and the strength of those players, which on average in no way compares to college athletes. It's in no way compares to high school athletes. About 1% of high school athletes play at college. About 1% of college athletes make it to the pros. It's a very different player, very different on-field dynamic. We would not bring to you a recommendation that we had not fully vetted. We do not see the downside to this. Ideally, we have a field dedicated to soccer and lacrosse and one to football. I believe we shared with you the estimated cost for that in the school district would be $84 million. In some cases having to acquire property, construct some spectator seating, construct restrooms, and in many cases acquire property if we have no more property in our school locations. Our concern about injuries is we are continually wearing out natural turf. It has no time to recover. Many years ago, it was pretty much a defined football season, and it lasted the regular season, and about 3 weeks before that, and 2 weeks in the spring. And we only had, in some schools, soccer. No one was playing lacrosse. Soccer had a similar small season bracket. Now almost all sports run throughout the year. That field, those natural turf fields that we are using for 3 sports in multiple teams, never get a break. And you heard someone describe earlier what happens when that turf is gone. Then you're hitting solid ground. You've got holes in it, you've got depressions in it. And it is played on so frequently that there is no way to maintain it when it's one field. If you have the luxury of having natural turf in multiple fields, you can maintain that by rotating teams on that turf. If you don't have the luxury of doing that, nor would it be, we believe, a worthwhile investment. We talked about the source of revenue. Basically, the source of revenue is this is the final dollars that came out of COVID money. It will not recur. It created a very large fund balance add year 1, year 2, year 3, and this is the final year. It reflects expenditures that were in your general fund budget that we were able to use COVID money to pay for and save that other money. But it will not recur. So the idea that it would fund teachers or anything else that recurs in the budget is incorrect. It's not available to do that. It can be spent once. This is likely the only point in time where the district will be in the position of having that amount of money to do this kind of project and ensure it gets done in a timely manner at all 15 high schools. There will still be likely around $60 million generated from COVID money that we would present to the board as part of the long-range facility plan to offset inflationary costs there and to move projects forward. Again, money that will not recur. We can buy numerous additional evolve systems. That's not the issue. The issue with evolve systems is a tech and a deputy sheriff to go with each one of them costs about $190,000 a year. That pretty quickly adds up to a significant recurring cost, not the cost of the system. That's without getting into the debate about the effectiveness of a stationary evolve that people routinely pass through every day versus the benefits of them not knowing what it's going to be. So there are a lot of misconceptions about this. You know, comparison mode, this is only 0.08% of the general fund budget. This is literally, that's a good comparison, but this is literally no percent of the general fund budget. This is fund balance set aside that you can utilize one time. We're recommending to you all that it be utilized for this purpose because there was an identified issue that you all asked us to go look into. We're not, these fields are not at the level they should be. The best scenario is not within our realm of our budget. And that would be to spend $84 million and add these fields. That's not possible. This is the next best solution that addresses the issues we have and is focused on player safety. You have all the research that we wrote. That serves as the basis for our recommendation. Be glad to answer any.
So, Dr. Worcester, with that being said, I thought the COVID funds had to be spent by a certain time.
COVID funds were spent. They were spent on items that were already approved in your general fund budget, which allowed those expenses to be journal entry. That saved money that was originally in the general fund budget is now sitting in fund balance. Just like it did in the very first year that we got COVID relief money, which was the spring of 2020.
Okay, because I thought we had to do our final report,
Yes, it's been done.
but yet we didn't spend this money.
That's not COVID money. It is general fund money that was saved by using COVID money for already budgeted general fund expenses.
Okay. And so I'm not sure. So the board made a recommendation to find out about AstroTurf a year ago?
Yes. And AstroTurf is a brand name. That is not
the
product that
artificial
we're looking
turf.
at. AstroTurf is 70s era technology.
Okay. I meant
But
artificial turf.
the only reason I correct that is because there is an AstroTurf product, and it is not something we would want to have.
No. Okay, so I don't remember asking for, but I probably did. But, so Colonel Carlin, you were instrumental in putting this in the Richland County area's schools?
Well, I was instrumental in getting the grass fields transformed to artificial turf. That was athletics as well as the band community push. But I was the implementer of making it happen,
Okay,
getting the construction completed.
all right, and then they've had it, what, 10 or 12 years? 10 years, 12 years?
Our initial installation was in 2012, and they just completed replacing the turf surface with the infill for those three game fields.
So, the pros and the cons.
They're very satisfied with it, which is why they're continuing with it.
And if we weren't satisfied, so, Dr. Royster, when we implement this project, how many schools are we doing at a time?
The timeline,
Okay.
I know it's on there, but I want the audience to hear too.
all right, the timeline would be 2 fields, winter 25, 26, 5 fields, summer 26, 2 fields, winter 26, 27, 4 fields, summer of 27, 2 fields, winter 27, 28.
All right, so that would give us time. I mean, I just hate not being able to see this in person and really talking to people that are dealing with it, but I'll leave it for other people to ask questions. But Dr. Royster, thank you for your information.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch, as well. Mr. Sailors.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's see, Dr. Royster's answers, Mrs. Levinas Wells answered about half of my questions. So, Colonel Carlin, in the changeover in the school system that you previously served, that you mentioned earlier, it was mentioned in some of the commentary tonight about the rubberized pellets that are the fill between the fibers.
Yes, sir.
And the recommendation, I believe, of the products that you're looking at, or the staff is recommending, lean more heavily on a wood fiber product, not a recycled rubber product. Am I correct?
I don't know of anybody that's right now putting recycled tire rubber in. There are other products that have come out.
They better not be.
And they're continuing to come out with different options that get away from any of that type of old car tire.
Well, my point being is, even from the time that you initially installed those that have just been recently replaced, the technology has advanced. So some of the concerns of the last 5 and 10 years have been able to be progressed and dealt with the improvement of the turf technology, just like you would have with IT-related equipment.
Correct.
Okay, so there was a fairly common thread through some of the comments tonight about comparing this or what we do at the school district level to higher level of athletics, college and NFL to be precise. Okay. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but right now at our schools, between football, soccer, lacrosse, 2 and 3 football teams at one time, 2 and 3 soccer teams at one time, whatever. Is there a day when a football field at a school in our county is not being used for something?
In the day it's not being used for something,
Yeah.
in the spring, that would be highly unlikely.
But in most cases, a field in our school system is being used by either one of the athletic teams for practice or play, or the band for practice or competition. It's being heavily utilized.
Yes.
How many times does an NFL team play on their home field? How many times does a college team play on their home field? You see my point? Okay.
You can hear
Then,
the apples.
do we have the ability, as it stands right now, if we did nothing to relieve the issues? In most of these schools, do we have the capability to offer more use on a natural turf surface by other teams? So, for example, I can think of 5, maybe 6 high schools that could probably field a D team in football, or a second girls soccer team or something, but there's not the ability because of the wear and tear on the natural turf. And do we have any opportunities that we're missing because the turf just can't hold up to the existing use?
I think it'd be highly likely with soccer and lacrosse. This is much of football, maybe football. Highly likely that soccer and lacrosse at our largest schools, they could legitimately field a ninth grade team. Now they got worse than but it is not uncommon for large high schools to field ninth grade teams in just about every sport they have. And we don't have the capacity to do that. Coach Nance also mentioned it's kind of an emergent sport. He's tried to get back interested in for a couple of years, is flag football in the fall.
Yeah. Well, my point is
I
this.
mean, we can't, we'd be hard pressed to add anything. It's just more wear and tear. And it's wet for the turf that we have and the turf that the natural turf that you use. You get out there and put soccer and lacrosse on it in the spring, which is the primary growing season for any kind of Bermuda turf. It really never gets the chance to grow with runners or with thickness that you would want it to grow until you're right out there wearing it out. It doesn't. That would be the primary recovery period from the fall. Now you could recover if you didn't play on it in the fall. Primary recovery period for Bermuda would be early spring, late spring, early summer.
Most anybody that knows me knows that I've spent the last 20 years in the construction industry related to K-12. And I run across a lot of opportunities where I see athletic fields in much better shape than what we have with the challenges that we're currently facing, even when they're better fields. The interest in artificial turf is growing. As I mentioned, and the reason I asked Colonel Carlin the background of his experience is because we're seeing the technology for the product improving. We're seeing the lifespan of that product improving. And at this point in time, this is, as Dr. Royster said, this gives us an opportunity to fund it in a manner that would be the most beneficial opportunity we would have for a project like this. So I thank you for your answer, Dr. Royster and Colonel Carlin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saylor. Ms. Middleton.
Thank you. I am truly conflicted on this. Don't like artificial, okay, bothers me a lot. But I do see that it is definitely low maintenance, multi-use, more convenient. I feel like we're putting a Band-Aid on it, and it's a good Band-Aid, but my dream and my vision is to have all the fields improved, which I thought when we had the JL Man thing last year, that we talked about JL Man improving their fields. And apparently JL Man's fields were improved greatly. Is that my understanding? And
Yeah, that is correct understanding. And our fields are as good as we can get. But what will happen? They're doing a lot of work, what will happen as soon as they get on it with lacrosse and soccer, and they're about to get on it, we're couple of weeks out.
Monday.
Monday. They'll start next week. And that turf cannot continue to take the pounding that it takes from all those sports. It will not look the way it looks at the end of football season. Because it's just too much activity on it. Football is basically 3 teams play. They don't all play every week at home, obviously. So the number of contests is nowhere near the number of contests when you've got multiple teams playing in the spring. If you want the fields to look like they look at the start of the fall, all year round, the only way to do that is to have another playing field or change the surface. And another playing field's got like a $84 million price tag. That would be the optimal solution. It would be irresponsible for us to recommend that to you, I believe. Because there would be other needs that would go unmet. The $84 million would need to be used for, related directly to academic facilities.
So I have taken a pretty good look at the construction cost of additional high school spectator sports. And I know this incredible sameness, and I do agree with that. But sometimes I think maybe there's some extra field that practice fields now that could be renovated for $3-4 million, that we could start moving towards a goal of having all our fields, not just some fields turf and some fields grass, but having all our fields eventually, and also having, eventually the grass, and also having soccer and a lacrosse separate. I just think, I feel so, all the research I've done, it's very inconclusive, very hard to do these kinds of experiments and research, and, I mean, who's to say? Who's to say, is it artificial good is better, or real grass is better? I mean, I have, my husband is a big sportsaholic, he plays some of those sports. I was an athlete. My son-in-law is a nut. I mean, he follows all the blogs, all the sports and all that. And they just told me, like, so many football people in the pros and in the college say that they just cannot get a good grip on the artificial turf. It causes the ankle injury, and, it's not forgiving. It's an unforgiving surface. And I know this very good what we're going to get. I know it's very good, but it's still going to be not natural grass. It's really not going to be, what we say. No matter how we look at it, it's still not going to be that.
If I smoke, I leave a cigarette right
It helps to clarify the number that we gave you for those having a field as you described, that soccer and lacrosse could share, spectator seating, lighting. It takes into account the places where we have space available and where we don't. And those are very accurate budget numbers because we know what it costs per seat to put in spectator seating. And that's a spectator seating of like 1,500 people. Very small spectator seating. But the lights cost the same no matter how many spectators you have on that field watching it. If it's remote from restroom facilities, you got to build restroom facilities. And there are requirements that the restrooms cannot be but so many feet from the spectator venue. So that's based on what we currently have. It's also based on where to get that second field, it would require the acquisition of property. As we all know from recent experience with trying to acquire school sites, property is extremely expensive. This is the most cost-effective solution that will resolve our issue, provide a safe place, and provide it to every school in a reasonable amount of time at a reasonable cost.
So the
And it's
issue-
still very expensive, but it's certainly more reasonable than 84 million.
Right. So the issue is, we simply cannot take care of our fields. That's the issue.
We cannot maintain them a natural turf field the way it should be maintained with this much traffic on it. When you talk about college and the pros, they don't do, they have one sport they're playing. They have one playing field that they rarely get on until they play on it. And they have multiple practice fields. We do not have, and nor will we ever have that luxury. That's the idea. But we don't have that, nor should we. But we can't, that would not be an appropriate investment that we could recommend to people.
Okay, that's good for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton. Dr. Presley?
I've usually written down comments, and have my questions prepared, but I do feel like the vast majority of my questions have been answered time and again and repeatedly, over the Cal meeting and over this meeting, and I thank you all for your willingness to continue to answer the same questions, for the sake of thoroughness. I have the perspective of having worked in Greenville County School District, having worked in Beaufort County School District. I've been an administrator. I'm a mom of a student athlete who plays on those fields. And I've seen scores and scores and scores of young people thrive and benefit from athletics. Well, sometimes there's more than just academics that has the capability to tether a child to a school and to completing their education, whether it's the arts, which we support in Greenville County Schools, whether it's athletics. Sometimes it's not just sitting at a desk and learning those particular subjects. Now that's the outcome. That's what's going to give them the diploma. But sometimes it's the appeal of the athletics. It's the relationships that they develop with their coaches and how they're mentored that keeps them in the desk. And we've seen that. You said that's anecdotal. Go look it up. The research is there. I say this, don't our children deserve that? Don't they deserve best to be competitive at a state level? There's a very powerful visual that we were given at Cal. I'm not going to ask y'all to put it up again for the sake of repetitiveness, but it's our state, and it shows the areas that have turf. And that's where our kids are getting on buses and going to compete. That's where they're going to compete. Don't our children in Greenville County deserve to be competitive at that level? Also within our county, I've also had the privilege of working in many of our buildings across the district and have seen the fields for many reasons. There is a disparity. Y'all, it's nobody's fault. It's when stuff was built, weather, all kinds of things like that. And we have the opportunity to level that across our 15 high schools. That is so important. And I'm just going to put this out there. Our students, our coaches, our staff at the building level, our athletic directors who put blood, sweat, and tears, our parents who are so heavily vested in this, they all deserve it. Our kids deserve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Presley. Thank you, Dr. Presley. Ms. McCullough?
Thank you. It's a belief. I believe that the administration always vets and brings us information. We pay them the big bucks to do this. Okay? So whenever they bring the stuff to us and they recommend it to us, it's the best thing for our district. And what a difference 2 weeks made, because I thought that it was unanimous at the CAL, to vote on this. But you know, whenever you have that, and when it was said that it would be no increase in millage, or that dreaded three-letter word, tax, then it was unanimous. But our kids deserve this. The athletes do better academically whenever they are in some kind of sport. They are happy, having top-notch facilities. And they go across the state and they see these other facilities, and we are the largest district in the state of South Carolina. And we need to compete. Y'all, I think that we need, and we owe this to our children, to have top-notch facilities. We're looking at the whole child, just like she said. Yeah, we want them to be successful academically, but sometimes with the athletics helps them with the academics. I know when my daughter was playing basketball, she made all A's when she was playing basketball. She did better when she was in a sport. So, like I said, it's what a difference 2 weeks make. And like I said, no millage, no tax. Our kids deserve this. So thank you, Dr. Royster. Your staff always vets and gives us the information we need to make an informed decision. And it's for our kids. We look at the whole child, not just the academics. We look at the whole child. So they deserve this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin Caldwell. Mr. Cochran?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to point out that votes at Cal meetings are not final votes. Votes at Cal meetings generally are taken to move things up to this regular meeting. And that gives us 2 weeks to look further into things, because usually we're just finding out about them a lot of times just a few days before the Cal meeting. It gives a chance for the public to look into the situation and contact us. So if we wanted to just take final votes, I guess there would be no reason to have the Cal meetings to begin with. And it certainly would mean we're not that interested in what our constituents think. With an undertaking of this magnitude, I definitely believe we should not rush this. As long as there are 1 or 2 board members who feel like they would like to further investigate this, I will not presently support this without giving them that opportunity. I greatly appreciate all of the research that has been done with the staff, but as Dr. Royster alluded to earlier, it is the trustees who are tasked with making these final decisions. And so unless we are comfortable that we have had the time, and again, yes, we were told maybe it was a year ago that it's going to be looked into, but just 3 days prior, basically 3 or 4 days prior to the Cal meeting, we had no idea that we were going to be voting on this at this point. So we've really had a little over 2 weeks. And yes, there is a lot of research out there. It's pretty much everybody that's looked into it, I think, would attest to. And so again, because we are tasked with making the final decisions, if some of us feel like that with all that information out there, and as Ms. Leventis well said earlier, if some people would like to go to one of these places where they have these new fields with the wood field turf, I think they ought to be able to do that. And so for that reason, at this point, I can't support this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Anybody else?
Um,
Ms. Goodwin?
Does anyone know how many counties have a 1-cent sales tax for school capital improvements that would include athletics?
Ms. Scott, do you have the information?
I do not currently have.
That does exist in this state, right?
Yes.
There are counties that have that,
Yes.
and
The closest
voters,
one to us that I know of is Anderson.
and voters approve that in a general election for a penny sales tax for school improvement. Is that right? So that it wouldn't be possible to ask our voters in Greenville County if they would like a penny sales tax to pay for things like artificial turf and lighting and restrooms and, I mean, maybe even buy more land for more practice fields. Right. Is that technically possible?
It's possible, but I think then you'd be asking for a tax increase to do something that you currently have the funds to do if you choose to spend it that way.
Well, it would be also be asking the public if they want to spend money on specifically athletic. I mean, the Greenville voters said they didn't want to spend money on roads. So it would be interesting to see what would happen if it was for students. But I feel like that's why some counties do have artificial turf, is because they had an influx of money and have to spend it somewhere on their campus. So, I mean, I would like to visit those campuses as well. So a lot of my questions were answered, but something else that you mentioned was that to improve the existing fields would be around $5 million. If you keep the grass and just improve the fields.
The 4.896 is simply to get a standard minimum 180 foot.
Involved in that cost is that moving the stands back?
At Wade Hampton.
Just at Wade Hampton.
Demoing the visitor side.
All right.
And replacing it.
And then can you remind me how much an evolved unit costs? An evolved system unit? Is it like
the technology, the technical part of it? I think they're about 200,000 now.
And then it's around, what, 160?
About $190,000 to staff it with a technician, the deputy sheriff. Right now, one of the challenges is actually being able to staff the deputy position. I think we're still running part of those with deputies doing it as a side job. Again, that is and I'm sure you know, the equipment, not the bigger issue, is the recurring $190,000 for a pair of people to accompany you.
No, I understand that, but I don't ever get any pushback from taxpayers about paying for security, ever. But I haven't received a lot of pushback on fields. So the only other thing I wanted to bring up was that I heard suggestions that booster clubs raise money if they want these fields, and I know that that is completely unrealistic. But at my children's school, we had to raise money for shade for the special needs playground because there are children in wheelchairs that it was just too hot to go outside and sit in the sun, so we had to raise money for shade. And I feel like that's something that should be provided with COVID money instead of artificial grass, because those children weren't really able to even go outside and enjoy the outdoors because it was just too hot. We've also had to talk about paying for that rubbery playground surface that all the public parks now have, like public playgrounds have that. I don't even know what it's called, but that rubbery surface is not wood chips. And I don't know if you've ever tried to push a wheelchair through gravel or wood chips, but that's pretty difficult. Oh, someone has. And I feel like that's something that we could use this money for also, so that PTAs aren't having to raise that money for playgrounds. So I'm just very still conflicted. But I do agree, I would like to be able to visit those facilities before we approve this money, like we were able to visit the wall system before Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Anyone else?
I just have one small, quick question.
Ms. Williams as well.
Colonel Carlin, there was a gentleman that spoke during the 3 minutes, and he said something about the worst part about it is you get the pebbles in your shoes, and it takes you a while to get them out or whatever. I've also heard about those petals coming out of the AstroTurf on the sides and pushing having to get all that stuff back in and pack it and things like that. Can you explain that to me?
Any type of infill you have with an artificial turf field, you're going to have some movement of the pellets. That's why included in our proposal is grooming equipment to make sure that all the areas on the field stay uniform.
Right. And I did read in one of my studies that when you're packing these fields, if you pack them too tight, you get injuries. If you don't pack them tight enough, you get injuries. And so that's another one of my concerns about this artificial turf. I did my homework, and that's why I wanted to see it firsthand, because I've read about it, I've learned, I've heard, and then when he brought that up tonight, that just reminded me about the packing in these fields. And it's a continuous thing. It's not like we'll take a look at these fields in about 6 or 8 months and, whatever. It's like, there is maintenance on these things.
Yes, ma'am. It's one of the reasons we'll be performing something called GMAX testing in all the fields to make sure that they stay at the right consistency for safety. It'll also be tied to the warranties with these fields that the installer will be required to make.
Okay. And just want to go on record that we're going to, when these, oh, sorry, my bad. And then when injuries do occur, I don't know what the length of time before we get hit with whatever kind of lawsuits about these athletes getting injured while, on this turf. Who is responsible for those things? Will the district be responsible for lawsuits when athletes are tear their ACLs and get cancer from this and all this other stuff that I've read about, and you're welcome to have my notes. Who handles it? Who's responsible, Dr. Royster?
We'll let Mr. Webb elaborate on it, but right now, if a student gets injured out there on the field, grass is worn out on, they get injured in a gym, and the district was somehow negligent, be liable in a lawsuit. We can sue you over anything at any time, about any concern they have, and make all kind of allegations in a lawsuit. Every day we operate schools, we have inherent liability risk. We certainly have liability risk in athletics. We actually, as a school district, have very few lawsuits. That proportionally to our size, we have fewer than most school districts in the state. But you can always be sued by someone.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate that, Dr. Royster. The only reason I'm saying that is because AstroTurf is a totally different animal right now, and I'm just trying to be cautious. But thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Well, let's call Ms. Milton, I'm sorry.
You want my notes?
Dr. Worcester, do you have standards for how our fields are maintained by the South Carolina Athletic Association?
South Carolina High School League has absolutely no standards for fields of any type. We have our own internal standards. Let me say that in this discussion, I don't want to leave anybody with the impression our facility people are doing an outstanding job maintaining our athletic fields at a level that they have never been maintained before. When I first came to the district in 2005, the schools maintain their own athletic fields. And the coaches are right there doing it.
Yes, I was a
Schools
coach.
that
I
pay
did
for
my
it.
soccer fields.
We've made tremendous progress. I mentioned to you earlier, we have professionals in charge of that. But no matter their best effort and the hard work of our athletic grounds crews, they cannot overcome that constant wearing down of the turf on these stadium fields. Despite their best effort, they just cannot keep up with it. But they're doing a great job maintaining the fields.
Sure they are. In terms of the athletic fields across the state, half of them are natural grass, half of them are turf.
That's correct.
In here. What are some of the other counties doing that have natural grass and that obviously must have the same problems? Are they also going to turf or trying to?
Well, you'll find many places that are trying to make that change to turf, which is expensive. So the others, a number of those counties likely do not have the same number of sports we have. If you look at that map, I don't know if you pull it up or not. Coach Nance might talk a little bit about that. Greenville is the first district in the state to have lacrosse, period. Now, it's steadily grown over the years, but there are still numerous schools in this state that do not have lacrosse. So that's 4 teams playing every spring that some number of those blue-colored districts do not have. I can't tell you exactly how many, I'm sure we can send that information to you. But there are going to be some of those that they're only playing football and soccer. You may also have schools that have the luxury of multiple fields. So I don't know the answer. I don't know how many of them have the luxury of multiple fields.
And I have noticed on the next slide that Greenville does win many championships also. So even though in natural grass, we still do have many championships that we win. And I guess I mentioned that because we want to get the notion that for some reason we don't want our kids to, or I don't want to have the kids have the very best. Because I absolutely want our kids to have the very, very best. And that's why we're discussing this. It's not because, oh, if they have turf, artificial turf, they all will be a panacea, and they'll be so happy. I don't know. Maybe some will say they don't prefer it. Maybe some will say they prefer something else. I mean, there's lots of different, it's really inconclusive. Every study, I've looked at all the studies and I've actually tagged them and rated them. And it's totally inconclusive. Some are for, some are against, some are concussions, or you could have more limb injuries, or you could run on it and hurt your knees. And I know people say, well, gee, we shouldn't talk about college and NFL because that's a different level. Well, to me, these are non-impact injuries that we're talking about. And if you are a college player or an NFL player, you should actually be in better shape. So you're probably going to have almost less injuries. We're looking at it because there's so much always there. So it's a good study group, it's a good control group to look at. But they are in tremendous shape, so they should actually have less injuries, as opposed to high school students that may not be as in good shape. Like if I go out there, it's going to be a real problem. I'm going to get injured because I'm not in shape, right? So that argument doesn't really hold water for me too much. Anyway, so that's just the
You might have to
emotional.
consider that is those NFL size, speed, strength. Yes, they're in better shape. But better shape is not just withstanding injury, amount of impact that they're receiving from an opposing player is far, far greater than that at the college level, and it's well beyond impact between high school players. And I think that was the, if I recall, Darryl, that was the gist of the NFL study, that it was so different from college and high school in the size, speed, and strength of those players.
It's actually soccer too. The soccer players generally prefer, professional soccer players do prefer natural gas, like natural grass. And when they have the World Cup, this will be required. This is just how it is. And I'm talking about non-impact injuries. I'm not talking about, tackles and things of that nature. The studies I'm looking at are the ones where they just simply twist ankles or pull their ACLs or their knees or whatever. So there's so many studies. But I think we all want what's best. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Dr. Royster, when you were speaking to us earlier about school board appreciation and what makes a good school board, made several comments that really stood out in my mind. You said that a strong school board is visionary, that they're focused on the students, and they're looking to the future. I appreciate that, and I want you to know that I continually strive to do those three things. And I have strived to do those three things in contemplation of my vote tonight. And I just would like to share that as an administrator of 25 years, I think it's really important when we make a critical decision like this, that we look to the people that serve our students. When we're school board members, I used to be a principal, I no longer serve in that capacity. But I feel like it's critically important to look to the people who serve our students, who work in our athletics department. And I'll just say that something really stood out to me tonight. I've had a lot of communications from a lot of people, but every single athletic director, coach, band director, booster club member, and student that I have spoken to is in favor of the artificial turf. That's striking. And that makes a great impact on my thinking. And I would just like to say, because I like to be transparent, that I believe the addition of artificial turf will serve as a testimony to our belief as a board in the vital role that athletics plays in the lives of our students. And Dr. Royster, as you share, this is a one-time opportunity. If we don't take advantage of it, it will pass. And then if we decide we want to go this way again, then we will have to look at a millage increase. And I'm confident that none of us want to have to look at a millage increase, to be forward thinking, to move our athletics program into the future. So I would just like to say that I fully support the addition of the artificial turf and tapping into the opportunity to make this happen for our students. And that concludes the comment.
I have one comment. My comment is, now I understand in Columbia why somebody will take the floor and speak for 14 hours. So all these people have to go home, and then you call a vote, and then you can table it. But I'm not going to do that tonight. So with that being said, thank you very much.
Okay, the comment has
Shit, it's
ceased. This time it's time to vote on the motion. All right, all in favor of the motion?
Roll call.
Okay, we'll have a roll call for all that are in favor of the motion. Ms. Worker, if you call the roll.
Ms. Brett? No. Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Cochran?
No.
Ms. Doolan? No. Ms.
Goodwin Caldwell,
Yes.
Ms. Levin's Webb.
No.
Ms. Middleton,
No.
Ms. Morrison Fair,
Yes.
Ms. Mosley,
Yes.
Dr. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Sailors,
Yes.
Dr. Stiles.
Yes.
7-5.
7-5, the motion passes. All right, our next action item is 5.03, property acquisition for Wayhampton High School. We have a recommended motion from administration and the remainder of the motion.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Sailors?
I'd like to move to approve the purchase of 2.575 acres adjacent to Wayne High School for future growth.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Sailors, we have a second from Ms. Morrison Fair. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We have now made a decision to purchase this property in the amount of $975,000. Our next agenda item is 6.01, committee liaison reports. Would anyone like to share on the committee tonight?
Madam Chairman, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Sailors.
Earlier today, the advocacy committee met to deal with a number of issues. Ms. Horton was gracious enough to give us an update on several things that have started taking place related to educational action in Columbia, but there's one piece that I need everyone's help with. H3778 was filed earlier today by Chairman Bannister. It is co-signed by Representatives Burns, Long, Willis, Vaughn, Haddon, Jones, and Bowers, with Wickensheimer and Dillard signing on tomorrow. This is the legislation that asks for the 8 days forgiveness that we experienced and loss of school days during Hurricane Helene. If this resolution is not approved, then our school district has 2 options. We extend the calendar by 8 days, or we take weekends or holidays to fill those 8 days prescribed per state law. So this is seeking relief from that state law. So again, anyone that we have direct contact with in the legislature that I did not mention, we're asking for them to sign on to it. This afternoon we discussed the book resolution that we had passed prior to the calendar year. As you recall, we developed a resolution to request the Library of Congress to facilitate the implementation of a rubric that could be used by publishers to give parents and teachers a structured idea of what content and reading appropriateness would be for library books, both at the school and classroom level. We finalized it here. We sent it to the State Association, asking for the State Association to present it to their delegate assembly this past December. Long story short, it was not approved, it was not denied, it was sent back to the committee for additional adjustment, if you will. Now, we realized a couple of things. Not every school system in this state has experienced the same level of concern that we've received from parents in the community. And so our vision of this need versus others is different. There are a lot of districts that have experienced the same thing we have. They applauded the effort that we're doing, but some of the smaller districts that quite frankly have never faced the same Q&A that we have from the community, to be honest with you, they heard the words federal government and they quit listening. So to prevent a continued unnecessary conversation, the motion was made to send it back to the committee, which means it does not take action before that body again until December of this year. Therefore, my recommendation to the committee which was unopposed and recommended to this board, is that we send a letter or a notification to the state association withdrawing this from their recommendation, their consideration, and we will send it straight to our congressional representatives from this board for their support and moving it forward at the level that it needs to be done. It's being recommended at the federal level because that's where TVs, games, videos, movies, all of that is a national issue because no two states have the ability to come up with standards that are uniform coast to coast, border to border. Library of Congress would hypothetically establish a rubric. This was the recommendation from congressional staff, and so we will be respectfully requesting Representative Timmons and Representative Biddy's offices to take action on this if they so choose to do so. And that's it for the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers, and we appreciate your leadership on the advocacy committee. I believe we're doing great things to make a difference in the lives of our students. So thanks for a job well done. Ms. Morrison there?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just would like to announce and remind my colleagues that there will be the SCSDA annual convention in Myrtle Beach, February 21st to 24th. Thank you.
Thank you for that reminder. Anyone else who wants to report on their committee work? Okay. All right, hearing no one else, we're going to move on to our final agenda item, and it's getting late, so I know that everybody will be glad that 7.01, financial information, November 2024. The financial statements have been presented to you as information. Does anyone have a question regarding the report from this time? Yes, Ms. Brett.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Looking at the statement of revenues and expenditures graph, the general fund expenditures, we are significantly higher in the other percentage right now. It looks like 8 to 9-ish% higher than we have been. Can somebody tell me why and what that is?
Assume it's probably personnel vacancies.
It's actually software purchases that we made this year, and they are purchased at the beginning of the year, and they were moved in from ESSER through budget process this past year.
Well, that was a short answer to a short question. That makes us all happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brett. Does anybody else have a question? All right, hearing none, this concludes our agenda. Again, thank you to everyone for staying with us tonight and for your presence. We appreciate you. Do we have a
Madam
motion
Chairman,
to adjourn?
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Made an announcement, and Ms. Presley has made a statement, and so all in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries.
Bit of a rural Shaler, good to see you. Thank you for your comments and your advocacy. I think